Hello, so welcome to Week 8. This is one of the parts in Week 8 that's about writing concise sentences and removing redundancy. This is especially useful if you have the tendency to exceed your word count. And most of you, I think, probably love to write things in too much detail, so it results to redundancy. Alright, so pay attention to this slide, just about 10 slides. Now, if you can see here, it says write less for fewer language errors and for clarity. So this is what this slide is about. It wants you to write in a short and concise manner, but still your sentences will be very, very clear and informative. Okay, so firstly, what can you do? You can cut individual redundant words. Okay, look at the example. So far, researchers have failed to solve this equation due to various issues, problems, and difficulties. So if you look at this sentence, issues, problems, and difficulties, aren't they the same meaning? Okay, don't you think they discuss about the same thing? Alright, so instead of repeating these three words which have similar meanings, you change it to so far researchers have failed to solve this equation due to various issues. Full stop. You don't have to write problems and difficulties anymore because various issues readers would know. It could be problems, it could be difficulties, challenges, obstacles, right? The next example, this point is critical and fundamental for the research objectives. Critical and fundamental both emphasize on importance, correct? So, in order to cut redundant words, you change it to this point is critical for the research objectives. So instead of repeating two words that have the same meaning, you just cut it to one word. Alright, you choose either to use critical or fundamental. Okay, so this is one of the ways to cut word count. Another one, the second way is to avoid generic plus specific constructions. Immediately give your audience specific information without preceding information with a generic statement. To make it simple, look at the example. In these two sentences, what can you cut? The first sentence, meetings will be held twice a year in June and December. So if you look back at the explanation, it asks you to immediately give your audience specific information without preceding information with a generic statement. So in order to be more concise, you straight away give or provide specific information on the spot. Okay, don't confuse your readers. Provide them with what they need, the exact information. So for this first sentence, meetings will be held twice a year in June and December. You can cut it to meetings will be held in June and December. Okay, tell them the months. They want to know when. If you tell them twice a year, they'll be asking when. Alright, so you tell them the months to be exact to avoid confusion. So specific information is needed in your sentence. The next one, the investigation was held in two countries, Malaysia and Brunei in brackets, both of which ... Okay, so instead of saying the investigation was held in two countries, Malaysia and Brunei in brackets. So instead of saying that, you could have just said the investigation was held in Malaysia and Brunei, comma. Right? You don't have to mention the two countries in your sentence. You just have to be exact. Which country? Straight to the point. Alright, so this is what it means by immediately giving your audience specific information. Next, the third one, use the shortest form when connecting sentences. This one, you have to be good with your connecting devices. Okay, look at the original version, the first sentence. From the previous list of properties, it emerges that cooperation with devices is a complex task. This long sentence can actually be shortened by writing it as cooperation with devices is thus a complex task. Okay, so you have to know how to connect your ideas using good connecting or good connectors, sentence connectors. Alright, the next one, I know some of you like to write this kind of expression. Multitasking when driving on the road should be avoided since it is generally the case for carelessness. And so instead of saying it is generally the case, you can just say multitasking when driving on the road should be avoided since it generally causes carelessness. Right? So instead of using many words to describe something, you can just be very concise. Okay? Avoiding many words in a sentence which could lead to confusion. The next one, you cut redundant adjectives and adverbs. This, I believe, many students, especially when it's their first time writing an academic essay or a report, they love using redundant adjectives and adverbs. Look at the first sentence. This is absolutely necessary, as the reader could interpret the sentence in a completely different way. So if you ask yourself, why are these redundant? You don't really need it in a sentence. That's why it's called redundant, yeah? And even if you put it in your sentence, how can you measure absolutely? How are you going to measure completely? How complete is completely? How absolute is absolutely? So instead of having those adverbs which are unnecessary, you cut them. Okay? Cut them. And make it as this is necessary as the reader could interpret the sentence in a different way. Isn't it very straightforward? Easily understood? The second sentence, numerical methods have increasingly become quick and expedient means of treating the identified problems. Quick and expedient, aren't they the same thing? Yeah? So when you want to describe something using adjectives, make sure the description is not redundant by having two words which have the same meaning to describe just one thing. Okay, that's what we call redundant. So instead of having that, we can delete an expedient because it has the same meaning as quick and shorten a sentence to numerical methods have increasingly become quick means of treating the identified problems. Next one, you replace impersonal expressions beginning it is. So you can see from the example, it is surprising that no research has been conducted in this area before. So from that sentence, the three words that are in red can actually be shortened to just one word. Surprisingly, no prior research has been carried out in this area. Look at the second sentence. It is regretted. Okay, so any expression that begins with it is, you can actually shorten it. Okay, these are what we call impersonal expressions. They can actually be shortened. It is regretted that no funds are available for the next academic year. So instead of saying it is regretted, you can actually replace it with unfortunately. Unfortunately, No funds are available for the next academic year. Next is to reduce authorial voice. The usage of we, our, they're quite personal. This can be about, this is what we call personal pronouns. It is best if you can just get rid of them. Do not use personal pronouns in your academic essay or report writing. Look at this original version. As in the previous case, we observe that there are 3 distributions of this measure. Instead of that, you can just go straight to the point by saying that there are 3 distributions of this measure. Okay, the next example, as we can see in figure 1, for each network, we have a series of different relationships. So instead of having a long sentence with personal pronouns, we can actually revise it to figure 1 highlights that there is a series of different relationships for each network. You go straight to the point. Okay, so instead of being personal, you be professional. Yeah, avoid authorial voice or personal pronouns. You can also be concise when referring to figures and tables. Okay, so instead of saying figure 1 shows schematically a comparison of 2 components, if you be straight to the point, it can just be figure 1 shows a comparison of 2 components, which is much more simpler and much more easily understood. Okay, short, concise, easily understood. Yeah. From the illustration presented in figure 3, we can say that dot 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 dot. Why not you just say figure 3 highlights that blah 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 blah. Yeah. And the last example, as we can observe in table 3 that dot 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 dot, simply just say table 3 illustrates that dot 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 dot, or table 3 reports, or table 3 highlights that dot dot dot. Isn't it easier? So immediately people will know that you talk about table 3, figure 3, and what's the purpose of figure 1. Okay, so be concise, especially when it refers to figures and tables. So that's all for this slide. Okay, so if you have any question or any doubts, you can always ask your lecturer for questions. Okay, thank you so much.